Jeremiah chapter 26, 27, 28. It's a series of sermons. Again, I have to remind you that Jeremiah is not in chronological order. So here is a series of sermons that is edited and put together. 26, 27, 28. 29 is really interesting. So stay tuned for 29, the letter to the exiles. But in 26, 27, 28, with each chapter, the king is identified. So when you when you read of the king's name, then you can put the time and the place to it. And here 26 speaks of Jehoiakim. So we know, son of Josiah the good king died. Jehoiakim, his son, rose to the throne, and Jehoiakim was the bad one that lost the kingdom. Eventually, when Jeremiah wrote the book first and gave it to him, he read it and sliced it piece by piece, dropped it into the fire and burned it. And Jeremiah has to require his secretary Baruch to rewrite the book of Jeremiah, and they added on new details. So we have today the longer book of Jeremiah, the shorter book where it's gone, but the Septuagint is a shorter book of Jeremiah. Presumably, they had a copy of the first Jeremiah, and it was translated from that copy. So they're here. So we know Jehoiakim, the bad king. So chapter 26, verse 2, thus saith the Lord. Understand that Jeremiah is a man of is a simple man of little words. He's private. So, but he speaks a lot. He preaches a lot because the word of the Lord came to me. The word of the Lord. At one time we remember that when he said, I'm not going to speak anymore, and God's word burned inside his bones, burned inside his heart, and that it comes out of his mouth, and he's like, the word of the Lord came to me, the word of the Lord, the word of the Lord. So here it says, the word of the Lord said, okay, Jeremiah, now go to the house of the Lord, stand at the gates. Here you have, who are you preaching to? The people who come in and out, the people from the cities of Judah, the priests, everybody, they come to the temple. So you have a huge variety of audience here. So to say the same word, there's still time, people, there's still time. Return to the Lord wholeheartedly, and he will, this disaster from the north will be averted. Hearken to me, hear me. And verse 6 is very troubling. And here we see him speaking to all kinds of people. And therefore, in this section, 26, 27, 28, we see their reaction to his preaching, the abuse they hurl on him from each section of people. So because the things he speaks, well, it's not from his own heart, it's from God, who makes him speak this thing. There will be disaster, and the disaster is not fun. Don't think that it will not happen to this temple that you're going to. Verse 6, then, if you do not hearken, you have not hearkened, then will I make this house like Shiloh, and will make the city a curse to all the nations of the earth, like Shiloh. What is Shiloh? Again, I have to remind you, the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom at Jerusalem, which the prophets to the southern kingdom is Isaiah and Jeremiah. The prophets to the northern kingdom is Hosea and Amos. The northern kingdom has already gone. Their temple was in the capital of Samaria, and the temple was at Shiloh. And so don't think I won't do to Jerusalem what I did to Shiloh. You said in Shiloh is the presence of the Lord. Surely God will protect it. No. Remember what happened to Shiloh? It's gone, decimated. Don't think I won't do it. Remember Shiloh. See, I will do to this house in Jerusalem what I did to Shiloh. It's like, this is not polite speech. Is obnoxious to the people listening to it. And here, so the people who heard it were angry. The priests and the prophets and all the people heard Jeremiah speaking these words in the house of the Lord. Understand that they are hearing it real time being spoken. But these will be written so that when they eventually went to exile, they have the same words of Jeremiah spoken in the reign of Jehoiakim with them. And it should break their hearts that, if only, if only, if only. So why do we read scriptures today? So that we would not regret if disaster comes upon us, and we will not read it and say, if only I have been obedient, if only, a life of regret is not a fun thing to do. Rather than, live quietly, humbly, then live a life of wantonness like a prodigal son, and live a life of regret. So here, what did they hear? It's not like they just ignored him. Then they congregated among themselves and said, this man got to die. He's got to go. So said, why are you doing this? I'm going to kill you. And guess what he says? So verse 12, he said, Jeremiah doubles down. Then spake Jeremiah unto the princes and to all the people, the same audience, saying, the Lord sent me to prophesy against this house and against the city. So he amend your ways. So he doubled down. He wasn't afraid. He'll kill me. Then he said, after he's preached, do whatever you want with me. You want to kill me? Fine. I'm not going to. So here, the people arguing about themselves said, no, we should kill him. Remember Micah? Micah, during the time of Isaiah, said the same thing. This place is going to be destroyed. Zion shall be plowed like a field. Jerusalem shall be heaps. But we didn't kill him. So why should we kill this guy who says the same thing, right? Then other people said, no. Remember Uriah? Uriah said the same thing too. And guess what Jehoiakim said to him? Jehoiakim went after him to kill him, and Uriah left and went and hid in Egypt. And Jehoiakim sent people to Egypt to bring him back and killed him. And then we go on to chapter 27. Here, chapter 27, we hear of the king Zedekiah. Zedekiah is the last king before the complete desolation and siege of Jerusalem. And here he called together all the kings. With Zedekiah, that means the threat, the Babylonian threat is imminent. It's like next door. They're outside. The barbarians are at the gates. So he called together the neighbors, the king of Edom, king of Moab, king of Ammonites, Tyrus, Sidon. And he said, let's come together and see what we can do to fight against this Nebuchadnezzar. And guess what? God said, okay, Jeremiah, make a yoke. So we seem to think that a modern yoke of wood is put on a ox, and they then drag and plow the field or whatever. But in those days, the yoke is actually double. The young oxen is always tethered by the same yoke. It is for two oxen, to a more experienced oxen, and the more experienced oxen would lead. So when Jesus said, take up your yoke and follow me, he's actually saying, using the same double yoke, that on one side is us, on the other part is Jesus, and we're yoked to him and we go forward. So Jeremiah is asked to make this yoke, and he wears it on one side, and the other side, of course, is empty, because he's demonstrating, be yoked to God. Otherwise, what will happen? And do they listen? No, they don't listen. And they're still going back and forth. So in the end, God said, you don't want to be yoked to me. Jesus said, my yoke is easy. The wooden yoke is really well made and easy and stuff. So if you don't want to wear this yoke that's easy and be yoked to me, you will wear an iron yoke. You'll be yoked with an iron yoke to your enemies, to Nebuchadnezzar. And also in 28 again is the king identified is Zedekiah. And here there's this man called Hananiah. Who is Hananiah? Hananiah is a prophet who says, no, forget about it. The exile, he says 70 years. No, don't worry about it. When Zedekiah comes, the first deep exile has already happened. So now this is the interim period, 597 BC to 587. So this interim period that Zedekiah, he consulted Jeremiah and said, what shall I do? Shall I, he's already amassed a huge army ready to fight. Jeremiah said, no, no, no. You will die. You will not be able to go against Nebuchadnezzar. The best thing to survive is to surrender, go into exile, and finish exile, because 70 years is a long time. I know, 2 generations and come back. See, the first exile has already happened, 597, under the previous king, Jehoiakim, who surrendered, and we know that Nebuchadnezzar took his family, all the royal courts, and 10,000 other elites of Jerusalem, including Ezekiel and the 25-year-old Ezekiel and his wife, and presumably Daniel and his 3 friends too. They left on the first deportation, and also whoever was left was allowed to live in Jerusalem, including Zedekiah the king. So he had 10 years before the final destruction, 587. So Nebuchadnezzar already took the gold and silver, whatever is valuable, out of the temple of Jerusalem. So they thought, the people, now Zedekiah and the people in Jerusalem thought, this is it. It's not as bad as Jeremiah is saying, right? If this is it, hey, we can get on with life. And Hananiah said, yeah, don't worry, it's going to be short-lived, 2 years, and you come back and they'll return the valuables that they took out of the temple. So understand that at that time, there were priests, there were prophets, there were other prophets too. And depending on who you want to listen to. And even like today, we have all kinds of people, prosperity ministers. Everything's going to be all right. We are going to be raptured. We are not going to go through tribulation. Just send me your money, whatever, your first fruits. It's the same thing, but what did Jesus say? Jesus said, in this world, you will experience tribulation. Take heart, I have overcome this world. So at the end of chapter 28 of Jeremiah, that God says, you don't want to be yoked to God, you will be yoked to your enemy. He said, go, verse 13, go and tell Hananiah, saying, thus saith the Lord, thou hast broken the yokes of wood. See, the yoke of woods, which is easy, to be yoked to God, to be yoked with Christ. Take up your cross, take up the yoke. My yoke is easy, and follow Christ. So you don't like this yoke of wood, you shall wear the yoke of iron. Verse 14, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I have put a yoke of iron upon the neck of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and they shall serve him, and I have given him the beasts of the field also. Understand that my servant Nebuchadnezzar is no God-fearing person, but it was used as an instrument of punishment, as a yoke of iron to punish his disobedient people. And what happens to Hananiah? The Lord hath not sent thee. Remember Deuteronomy 18:18? The prophet I will appoint, he will speak my words. If he speaks and I have not appointed him, he will die. So this is Hananiah. Hear, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee. Thou makest this people to trust a lie. And what happened? The prophet Hananiah died the same year in the same 7th month.